Hey there everybody, Nathan Elson here. Welcome back to the channel. Now, today we're going to talk about retouching, or more specifically, ways that you can make retouching a whole lot easier. Now, a few of the different processes that I often go through in my work are evening out skin tones, taking out wrinkles and different things like that in clothing, as well as color grading my work. Now, a lot of those processes can be very labor intensive and they take a lot of know-how. But there is a company that has made this possible with a few clicks of a mouse, and that company is called Retouch4Me. And they've created these filters in Photoshop that allow you to do all of these things with a few simple clicks. So I'm going to take you through 3 different apps. One that, as you may have guessed, evens out the skin tones in your image. Another that will take out the wrinkles and those types of things in your clothing. And another which is just unreal, where you can literally take the color grade of any image that you find and apply it to the images that you create with just a couple of clicks of a mouse. Now, if you're watching this video between October 26th and October 31st, 2023, Retouch4Me is actually offering 30% off all of their products. Use the link down in the description below. Save yourself a few bucks. But with that being said, let's just get into it. So as I was saying, something that often happens in portrait work is that we end up with different parts of the body where the skin tone doesn't quite match. Oftentimes in the hands, sometimes in the cheeks, different things like that, where we have more blood flow naturally, and that just causes those parts of our body to show up more red in the image. Now, there are different processes that you can go through to color match that skin, but they can be quite tedious. But as I said, Retouch4Me has come up with an incredibly fast way to make this happen. Now, if we look at our image here, we can see that our model's hands and the side of her breast, they're quite red compared to the rest of the image. So in order to fix that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up to our background layer here, and we're just gonna bring this down and hover it right over top of this little plus sign, and that's gonna give us a copy of that background. Then we're gonna come up to our filter, we're gonna come down to Retouch4Me, and then Retouch4Me skin tone. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through, analyze the image, find the skin tones, and then find what's, the most balanced skin tone for the entire image, find the parts of that image that don't match that, and then color match them to that skin tone. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure you turn on this soft light layer, and then you just come through and apply this. And as you'll see, on the side of her breast here and on her arm, you can see where it's actually applied the coloring to this image. So now if we come up here and we select soft light and we do a before and an after, you can see now before, now after, that her hand and the side of her breast, everything matches perfectly. And also, if you just want to see where the color changes happened, you can deselect your background layer, and that will show you an area that shows all the different parts of the image where the skin tone didn't match, and Retouch4Me went in and fixed it up. And if there's anything you want to erase, you can simply select your eraser tool and paint that away. But for a couple of clicks and a few seconds, we now have a perfectly balanced skin tone. And that's just insanely time-saving. Now, another thing that I often end up doing is getting rid of creases and things like that in my subject's clothing. And one of the best ways to get rid of those is by dodging and burning, but it can be a process that takes a lot of time. So again, Retouch4Me came up with a filter that detects clothing and gets rid of the majority of the creases in your fabrics while still making them look insanely natural. So again, we're just gonna come up, we're gonna grab our background layer, we're gonna bring it down to that plus icon, copy that, we're gonna come up to our filters, down to Retouch4Me, and we are going to go to the Retouch4Me fabric. And it's gonna run through, it's gonna do its processes, and it's going to actually dodge and burn the various parts on the fabric in order to give you a very natural, but a far less wrinkled item of clothing. And again, hugely time-saving. Now, I'm not speeding any of this up. This is happening real time. That did not take long at all. I'm gonna make this a mask again, and I'm going to apply this. And as soon as it applies in, you can see if I do a before And then after, it got rid of so many of the creases in the clothing while leaving the model and everything else in the image alone. And again, if I just come in a little bit tighter here, before and then after. So you're not losing, the creases in the clothing that are part of the design of the clothing, but these different areas where the clothing was just creasing because of the way it wears have been either eliminated or very significantly toned down. And that is, again, it took a few seconds. And if this is something that you often find yourself doing in a lot of your work, as I do, again, it takes so much work out of the process. Now, this is an option that actually has me completely floored, and that's the ability to take the color grade from any image and apply it to your own work. Now, a lot of the times when people see movies and things like that, they look at the color grading and they say, that is just, it's so beautiful. I wish I could apply that to my work. But to go through and, try to color grade your work to match the final output of what you saw on your screen, it's very time consuming and very hard to do, especially if you're not a professional colorist. But there are ways now where you can do that in a couple of clicks of your mouse. So I'm going to walk you through that process. Now, the first thing that we're going to do here, we've got our image here, a little bit of an urban image, and I'm going to take the background layer. I'm going to copy that again as we did in the other two samples. Then I'm going to come up to my filter, down to my Retouch4Me, and my Retouch4Me color match. Now, what this allows me to do is essentially steal the color grade from any image that I find and apply it to my own. Now, before we get into that, you can come into here, your LUT manager, because this is all based on LUTs. You can come in here, there's favorites, there's a LUT store. You can browse your local disk if you've got LUTs that you've created for video that you want to try to apply to your images. You can come up here into your favorites folder, different things like that. But what I want to show you is the ability here to load a reference image and then use that to color tone your portrait. Now, I've always been a big fan of Peaky Blinders. I thought it was one of the most beautifully shot series that I've ever seen. I love the storyline, everything about it. It was just awesome. So I went online and I downloaded an image of the Peaky Blinders simply walking down the street. I love the toning of the image. I love everything about it. I want to apply that to my work. So I'm going to come up to here into the load reference, and I've got that image here. I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to click open. And what it's going to do is automatically apply those color tones to my image. Now, this is heavy-handed. It's a little bit too much. So there's a couple of different things that we can do. We can come into our blend here and we can bring this down and we can drop that down a bit so that it looks a lot more natural. It still carries those hues, but in a much more natural way. The other option here is we'll bring this back up to our 100%. And because we copied the background layer, I'm just going to come down, I'm going to click apply, and that's only going to apply it to that copied layer. So now I can come up to my opacity and I can drop that down and I can adjust this to where I like it. And if I do a before and an after, I very, 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 very quickly stole the color tones from that image and automatically applied them to my own work. Now, this is such a game-changing option for color grading. And not only that, you can go through, you can create LUTs that mimic all of these different things, and then you can take that and apply it to multiple images. It opens up so many doorways to amazing color grading. And again, I can't stress this enough. This just takes so much work out of the process. All right, and so there we go. 3 super easy and efficient ways to not only speed up your workflow, but to color grade your images in a very professional way. Now, as I said at the beginning of this video, if you are watching this in between October 26th and October 31st, 2023, make sure you use the link down in the description, save yourself some money. But with that being said, as always, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.